This story is titled Parent Raised My Rent to Support Deadbeat Sister's Girlfriend. So I left and now they are begging me for help. The story is about Alex, a 23-year-old college student juggling a full-ride scholarship and 2 part-time jobs while living at home. Although living rent-free sounds ideal, it's far from simple due to his family dynamics. His older sister Kara, 25, has always been the golden child in their parents' eyes. Growing up, Kara's mistakes were glossed over, while Alex faced criticism for anything less than perfection. Kara's life had been a series of stumbles. She coasted through high school, skipped college, and bounced between short-lived retail jobs. Despite her lack of direction, their parents constantly praised her, offering endless excuses for her shortcomings. Meanwhile, Alex worked tirelessly, excelling in school and planning for his future, but his achievements often went unnoticed. The favoritism became especially apparent when Kara started dating Greg, a manipulative and irresponsible boyfriend who frequently borrowed money from her under false pretenses. When Greg eventually dumped Kara, leaving her in financial ruin, their parents leaned on Alex to help pick up the pieces. Things escalated after Kara moved out into her own apartment. Alex thought her independence might bring some peace, but it didn't last. Soon, his parents began dropping hints about Kara's financial struggles. These casual comments turned into a formal sit-down conversation, where they suggested that Alex, with his scholarship savings and rent-free situation, should help pay Kara's rent temporarily. Alex was stunned. He couldn't believe they expected him to take on her financial burdens, especially when she had consistently made poor choices. While Kara's lifestyle drained her paycheck, Alex had been grinding hard to create a stable future. Their parents argued that Alex's support would help Kara get back on her feet, but he couldn't accept the idea of enabling her irresponsibility. When Alex refused, tensions rose. His parents tried to guilt him by emphasizing family loyalty, but Alex stood his ground. He believed it wasn't his responsibility to bail out Kara, especially when she showed no signs of learning from her mistakes. This moment solidified years of frustration for Alex, highlighting the disparity in how he and Kara were treated. The conversation with Alex's parents about helping his sister Kara escalated quickly. They insisted it was only fair for him to contribute since he was saving money with a scholarship and rent-free living. Their argument was that family helps family, and Kara was struggling. When Alex pointed out the unfairness of working 2 jobs while covering Kara's poor financial decisions, his mom accused him of being selfish. Despite his protests, his parents dismissed his concerns and doubled down, emphasizing that it was temporary and she would repay him. Reluctantly, Alex agreed, hoping to avoid further arguments. But as he started sending money for her rent, he couldn't ignore the disconnect between Kara's supposed struggles and her lifestyle. Social media painted a different picture: shopping sprees, brunch outings, and even spa weekends. It didn't add up, but when Alex brought it up to his mom, she brushed it off, claiming Kara was using her own money and deserved to enjoy herself occasionally. The situation gnawed at Alex. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Kara dodged his questions, giving vague answers about her struggles. His doubts deepened after overhearing a hushed phone call at his parents' house, where Kara mentioned sending money to someone and tried to calm them down. It all clicked when Alex remembered a comment from his cousin, who mentioned seeing Kara hanging out with her manipulative ex-boyfriend Greg again. Suddenly, everything made sense. The money Alex had been sending for her rent wasn't going toward her bills, it was likely going to Greg. This realization left Alex furious. He felt manipulated, not just by Kara but by his parents, who had pressured him into supporting her. It became clear that Kara hadn't learned from her mistakes and was still making reckless decisions, all while taking advantage of his generosity. Now, Alex was left questioning his next move. Should he confront Kara and his parents or cut ties entirely? One thing was certain: he was done being a safety net for her poor choices. Alex's suspicions about his sister Kara deepened after a conversation with his cousin Matt, who casually mentioned seeing Kara with her ex, Greg, looking cozy. Though Alex initially brushed it off, the thought lingered. Greg was supposed to be out of Kara's life, a manipulative ex who had taken advantage of her in the past. But something about Matt's comment and Kara's increasingly secretive behavior didn't sit right with Alex. Unable to ignore the nagging doubts, Alex decided to dig deeper. That night, he checked Kara's Venmo account and found exactly what he feared, a series of payments to Greg. The captions were vague, "for groceries," or "you owe me one," but it was clear his money wasn't going toward Kara's rent as she had claimed. Instead, she was funneling it to the same man who had previously left her broke and dependent. Fuming, Alex debated whether to confront Kara immediately or cool down first. Ultimately, he decided he needed answers. With Matt for support, Alex showed up at Kara's apartment that weekend. Her reaction was guarded and defensive, confirming she had something to hide. When Alex brought up Greg, her pale expression said it all. Kara tried to deflect, accusing Alex of snooping, but he stayed firm, demanding the truth. Eventually, she admitted to giving Greg money, claiming he was in a tough spot. Alex's anger boiled over. He reminded her that Greg had already drained her finances once and accused her of betraying his trust by using the money he sent for rent to support Greg instead. Kara defended herself, insisting she hadn't lied but simply omitted the truth. To Alex, it was the same thing. When he asked if their parents knew, her silence spoke volumes. Alex decided they needed to hear about this and left her apartment, ignoring her panicked pleas to stay. Fueled by frustration and a sense of betrayal, Alex and Matt headed straight to his parents' house to confront them with the truth. On the drive to his parents' house, Alex's frustration simmered. Matt, ever the voice of encouragement, kept reassuring him that telling his parents the truth about Kara was the right move. "They need to know she's playing the victim," Matt had said. Alex wasn't sure how they would react, but he knew this couldn't go on. When they arrived, his parents were in the living room watching TV. Alex didn't waste time with small talk. He walked in and bluntly told them the situation. Kara wasn't struggling to pay rent as they thought. Instead, she had been funneling the money he'd sent her to Greg, her manipulative ex. At first, his father seemed shocked. "Greg? Her ex?" he asked, his disbelief evident. But before Alex could feel any relief, his mother dismissed his concerns. "She's just trying to help someone she cares about," she said, her tone almost scolding. Alex's stomach churned with frustration. He had expected his parents to be angry at Kara, but instead, they were excusing her actions yet again. He reminded them of how much he had sacrificed, working 2 jobs and giving up his own financial stability, just to help Kara. And now, she was using him to support the same man who had taken advantage of her before. Instead of addressing Kara's deceit, his father cut him off, saying, "Family helps family." It was a breaking point for Alex. Years of favoritism came crashing down in that moment. He realized his parents were never going to hold Kara accountable. Furious and feeling betrayed, Alex stormed out, Matt following close behind. In the car, Matt tried to lighten the mood, but Alex was done expecting change. His parents had chosen their golden child, no matter what she did. A few nights later, Alex was pulled from his thoughts by a loud knock at the door. It was late, and the unexpected noise immediately put him on edge. When he opened the door, Greg stood there, looking unkempt and disheveled. Without a word, Greg pushed past Alex, collapsing onto the couch like he owned the place. Alex demanded to know what he wanted, but Greg ignored him, muttering angrily about Kara ignoring his calls and trying to keep his child away from him. Alex froze, the words ringing in his ears. "Child?" He tried to process what Greg had just said, but Greg was already leaning back, smirking as if enjoying Alex's confusion. "You didn't know, did you?" Greg said, his tone mocking. "Kara didn't tell you she has a kid?" "My kid? 2 years old." Alex's mind raced. Greg's words felt like a sledgehammer. Kara had hidden something this monumental from everyone, even him. He tried to call Greg's bluff, but the man's expression only grew smugger. Greg revealed that Kara had been paying him off to keep the secret, not wanting anyone, especially their parents, to know the truth. As Greg continued to ramble, Alex's thoughts pieced together the moments that had never quite made sense. Kara's defensiveness about her finances, the vague excuses, and her sharp reactions whenever he asked questions. He had thought she was just embarrassed about her struggles, but now he realized she had been hiding something far bigger. The betrayal cut deeper than he could have imagined. Kara wasn't just using him for money, she was covering up a secret that changed everything. Alex stood there, the weight of her deception settling over him like a storm he hadn't seen coming. The pieces were falling into place, the money funneled to Greg, Kara's lavish Instagram posts of brunches and shopping trips, and now Greg's confirmation that she was sending him Alex's money. Alex's anger boiled over as he confronted Greg. He demanded that Greg leave, his fists clenched in frustration. Greg smirked as he left, throwing a final remark about Kara rewriting history and how this isn't over. Once the house was quiet again, Alex sat in a storm of emotions. Kara's deception ran deeper than he thought. She hadn't been struggling as she claimed, instead, she was coasting through life, using Alex's hard-earned money to fund Greg and maintain her carefree image. The next morning, Alex couldn't shake his anger. He called Matt, the only person who would give him an honest perspective. Sharing the news about Greg and the revelation of Kara's secret child, Alex felt both betrayed and determined. Matt encouraged him to stand firm. Kara had spent her life dodging consequences, but Alex resolved to put an end to that. It wasn't about preserving family harmony anymore, it was about holding Kara accountable. As Alex was planning his next steps, an eviction notice for Kara unexpectedly landed at their parents' house. The letter detailed months of unpaid rent and complaints from her landlord, culminating in her eviction. Reading it, Alex felt a mix of anger and grim satisfaction. This was Kara's mess, but he knew how it would unfold. His parents would inevitably rush to soften her fall. That evening, Kara arrived at the house with her usual indifference, barely acknowledging Alex as she dropped her things and helped herself to coffee. The eviction notice was on the counter where Alex had left it, and Kara eventually noticed it. She ripped it open, scanned the letter, and let out a frustrated sigh before tossing it aside like it was nothing. Her reaction was predictable, she ignored the problem, assuming someone else would clean it up. When their parents arrived, the mood shifted. Their cheerfulness faded as they read the letter. Alex watched as his mom comforted Kara, murmuring soft reassurances, while his dad stood silent, jaw tight. This moment encapsulated everything Alex had been fighting against. Kara's mistakes were always excused, her burdens shifted to others. But Alex was done playing along. This time, Kara's actions had consequences, and he wasn't going to be the one to shield her from them. The energy in the house shifted as it always did, with Kara assuming the role of the victim and my parents rushing to her aid. Watching them orchestrate her move back into her old room with seamless efficiency made my stomach churn. It was as if the eviction never happened, no mention of her lies, no accountability. Late one night, I overheard my parents whispering. Words like child and Greg cut through the silence, and my heart sank. They had known all along about Kara's child, her financial mess, and Greg's involvement. Worse, they'd kept it from me, leaving me to clean up the fallout while they shielded her from consequences. The next morning, I made my move. Quietly gathering evidence, from Venmo transactions to Kara's Instagram posts flaunting her lifestyle, I pieced together the full scope of her lies. I even contacted her landlord, who was clearly fed up with Kara's antics. The landlord wasted no time tightening the screws on the eviction. As expected, Kara reacted by storming around the house, muttering about unfairness, while my parents rallied around her with comfort and excuses. When my mom cornered me to ask for more help, I simply shook my head and walked away. This time, I wasn't going to enable her. I packed my things and left the house that day, finally free of their drama. Kara had burned every bridge, and I wasn't about to rebuild them for her. In the weeks that followed, my parents continued bending over backward to support her. They cleaned out her room, stocked the fridge, and even took time off work to help her adjust. Meanwhile, Kara showed no gratitude, acting as if she were doing them a favor by being there. As for Greg, he started threatening legal action for custody of their child. True to form, Kara handled it with avoidance and denial. My parents, ever loyal, believed her version of events and never questioned why she'd kept so much from them in the first place. A week after Kara moved back, my mom called, asking for my support, a thinly veiled plea for money. I refused, reminding her of Kara's lies and manipulation. When she tried to guilt me, I hung up. Now, weeks later, I've completely stepped away. I haven't visited the house, answered their calls, or involved myself in their chaos. Kara is still living there, letting my parents shoulder her problems while she does the bare minimum. For the first time in years, I feel free. No more guilt, no more enabling, no more being dragged into messes I didn't create. I'm focusing on myself, my studies, my jobs, and my future. Will Kara ever change? Probably not. My parents will likely keep enabling her until she's 40 and still blaming others for her problems. But that's no longer my concern. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself is to walk away, even if it's from family. Take care, everyone. Alex.